Jai Hind. What happens when passion meets determination? Well, you will meet my guest, Sanam Edwards, who is an educationist and kickboxer, mom of two, and who is proving that women can do it all. She has a blog looking into the review mirror where she shares insights on contemporary education practices. Her work is on progressive methodologies, social emotional learning, and the evolving needs of students and educators. She has been honored with the Leeds Teacher Award for outstanding contributions during the pandemic in the category Tech for Good. She also received the title India's Most Admired Woman in the Education Sector 2022 from Knowledge Review magazine. Also, Sanam has been actively competing at state and national levels in karate, kickboxing, and weapons training, and that is what and from where she channelizes her discipline and resilience. So, let's meet up this young, career oriented, passionate woman, mother of
So,
two.
yes, that's Sanam Edward for us. And Sanam, welcome and thank you so much. I know you remain busy, but you've taken out time. That's very kind of you.
You're most welcome. In fact, it's my pleasure. So I am really thrilled that I can be here today.
Great. Okay. And Sanam, I have seen your profile and I know that you've been a daughter from the forces and then getting married to an airline pilot. And how do you juggle between your life as a, wife and career woman, and also you are into kickboxing? So all of that summed up together, how does that work for you?
Well, I actually once had someone ask me, how many hours in a day do you have? Because it can't be the standard 24 hours because there are so many things that are going on. It can't be that you only have 24 hours. But no, I have only 24 hours, and somehow, life balances out if you want it to. So that's something that I think my dad has taught me a lot, to be able to juggle multiple things at one time, to be able to keep the ball in the air at all times. So, luckily, I have a very, very supportive family. So, I think every time I get an idea about something that I want to do, then they just know that, okay, there she goes, and we've got to support her. So, I think I give 150% to my family for being able to enable me to do everything. So, yeah, my days are taken up with a job full time, taken up also by my two wonderful sons. So, after we come back from school, then it's about them. It's also about, yes, my kickboxing and karate, which I'm very, very passionate about. So, I think it's important to keep all those facets going for me personally, because if I, let any one of them slip, I find the other facets of my life feel that. So, that is my thought process, that I would like to have everything going for me. And if I can find a way to do that, then that's what keeps me happy and keeps me going.
Wonderful. And um, talking about your childhood experience, if any of that which has had an impact on your life in a way that till date your personality and your values are, imbibed within you.
Well, for sure, I think growing up as a 4G kid, as they say, on Air Force bases, at that time, I don't think that I had enough cognizance of the kind of life that I was growing up in. But now, when I look back on it as an adult, I think, oh my goodness, what a wonderful upbringing. We were on these huge Air Force bases. There was freedom, there wasn't any kind of feeling of, you can't go here. We used to come back in the night. It was safe. We explored from morning to night. We didn't have phones. Our parents trusted us. And it was just a complete sense of what I think of as childhood, So for me now, when I look back, I'm so much more appreciative because I can't give even half of that to my children, because of the constraints of maybe the way things are today, the places that we live, and just the kind of generation that we have. So my children will never get to experience that. But that being said, I am much more appreciative that, with all those freedoms, how our parents brought us up to understand rules and values. Those things are so very precious to me. And for that, I think my parents were always very hands-on in my upbringing. Both mom and dad had a huge role to play in different ways. And it was always through role modeling. So there were so many events where when now I look back and I say, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize it, but I learned XYZ through this. So I think that whole Air Force upbringing was a very pivotal part in shaping my beliefs of giving freedom and being able to express oneself and as much as possible, of course. So those things were very important for me growing up. Yeah.
Great. And Sanam, you are an educationist. You have your
Yes.
own website by the name of Review Mirror. And
Yes.
how how did this happen in your life? And were you always the bacha in the house who was having parents sit or imaginative students sit and teach, or it just happened? What was it? And what do you love the most about your profession, if I may ask?
Okay, so again, it's funny that in hindsight, when I was studying for my 10th boards, my mom got me a huge whiteboard for my room. And I still remember studying for my 10th and 11th and 12th. What I used to do is I used to be recapping a topic, but I would teach an imaginary class. And again, I didn't know it at that time. But then now when I'm actually doing it, I get taken back to that time that, oh, I think maybe this was always meant to happen. So it actually, I never thought of being a teacher, but I was actually a dancer and I used to teach children dancing. And unfortunately, because of an injury, I could not continue anymore. So I was absolutely devastated when that happened because I thought I would always be a dancer. And then it was my mom-in-law who turned around and said, you enjoy teaching kids. Why don't you just become a teacher? And the idea clicked. And somehow from day one, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was always very passionate about it. And then when COVID came, I saw a lot of people struggling. I think I've enjoyed technology a lot. And because, again, I was fresh in the field, I used to enjoy trying new things. So the idea of the blog came about because I heard a lot of teachers struggling. And I said, okay, let me just start something to be maybe just a bit of help to someone else, anyone who's struggling. And from there, it just blew up. And that is such a rewarding thing because till date, I'm passionate about sharing more about what I learned. And when I hear that, it's helpful or something like that, it makes me want to keep continue doing that. And anyway, being an educator is a very rewarding profession. So it's something that I enjoy.
Wonderful. And a little more about your blog, Review Mirror, if you could talk about that.
Yes, so I share strategies for a variety of things for classrooms, for social and emotional learning, anything new that comes up in the field of education. I like to blog about it. And the wonderful thing about my work environment is that I have the freedom to do that because education today is very different than the kind of education we knew. So today, if you have a new idea, you do it and you see how it works out. Children respond to that. So most of the things I write about are tried and tested in my classroom. So it's an amazing feeling to just wake up with an idea and say, how do I do it? Let me figure it out. If it works, let's get everybody on board and try it. So my blog is all about new teaching strategies, new grading strategies, new assessment strategies, anything that I feel maybe someone out there hasn't heard of. Because also I work in a very progressive school that encourages a lot of forward thinking and encourage us to take on a lot of new practices. So perhaps there's someone out there who hasn't heard of that yet. Maybe the way I learned about it for the first time, somebody else would be hearing about it for the first time. So it's a good medium to share that information and make sure that all of us are on board together. So that's where I come from. So I enjoy sharing that. So when I blog also, I have something in my mind which becomes more structured, and then I find sometimes it's nice to revisit my own blog. Sometimes something I've written 3 4 years ago, I'm like, okay, this could work here. So in the same way, if somebody else is going through my blog, it could help. So that's the passion behind it.
Great. And congratulations, because I believe you were awarded also. I'm missing out on the award. What was that? Tech teacher?
Yes, so I was the Tech for Good Campaigner Award. I got that. And yes, I also got another award from Knowledge Review Mirror for one of the most progressive educationists. I think it was in 2022. So a couple of awards there. I think it just came as the blog kind of, um, exploded, I guess that's the only way to say. And then with that came a lot of lovely interactions with people from around the world. It came with a lot of accolades that, I mean, is very nice that it's happening, but it just goes to show that there are people out there who are listening. So I feel that it's been a fruitful kind of time for me.
Great. And Sanam, because you're an educationist uh, and a mother of two boys, now has it in some way influenced your parenting, if I may say?
Hugely. Sometimes I wish it wasn't so, because I find the teacher in me comes back home as well. It's very hard to switch off that switch. So um, I don't know what an ordinary parent is like, if you will. I've always been a teacher from the day the boys, were born. I was a teacher. So I only know how to parent kind of a mix of a teacher and parent, if you will. So my house has some, non-negotiables. It has a certain structure, and then it has a lot of fun and playtime, because I think as my inner teacher requires that structure and routine in my household, and my children recognize and understand that. But along with that, sometimes I'm tired of being the teacher. So they also know that, yes, we can have fun and let loose. So I think I have a very good balance in the house, and I've managed to maintain that, but it's not been easy. There has been, a big learning curve once I had the boys to understand how much of rule following is important, where do we kind of let them go, where do we start having the fun interactions, when is it time to become serious. So in a way, it's taken a long time to find that perfect balance, but we really enjoy, I think, the household environment, because it's a mix of everything. So that's good.
Okay. So somewhere you feel that, yeah, teaching and parenting are going hand in hand, and it
Mm.
kind of is the way that it should be for you to make it better understanding
Yes,
for the
because
children also.
Yes, because also, I hear so much from parents who struggle. When I have interactions with parents, so many parents come back to me and say, I can't get them to finish their homework. I can't get them off the screen. It is so difficult to talk to my child. They will not listen. Their first word out of their mouth is no. What do I do? What do I do? So, when I hear things like that also, it kind of makes me feel that um I think the balanced approach is always best, where you do have a routine and a structure, and children actually enjoy that. I'm Montessori trained. So, in that, they actually tell us that children love routine. They may rebel, against it at the beginning, but children innately love routine. So, when I hear parents also frustrated that something is not working for them, I usually am able to peg it to a point where somehow maybe the adult most probably is not able to maintain the structure. The child will follow the routine, but the adult has to be the adult and follow the structure. After that, everything becomes easygoing, because once that work is done, it's time for play and everyone can relax. So that balance is something that I feel is very, very important, and I do recommend it to everybody.
Wonderful. And I think this is going to be a big takeaway for all my viewers, because actually we need to follow rules and structure and put it in place, and adults
Yes.
need to follow it actually. Very true. Very, very true, Sanam. Uh, Sanam, talking about your profession only, uh, although I find you to be a very, very young educationist, but the people who want to follow your passion and your field, what advice would you want to give to the young who want to come into the same field of education?
Well, I would like to warn them that education as a field now is very, very competitive. It's no longer um, a teaching job that you can take up and you feel like it's from 8 to 1 o'clock, and you teach and you come home and then you have this home family life. It is a very, very demanding profession, but it is also a very, very rewarding profession. But to reap the rewards, you have to put in the effort, because these days schooling is about child safety. These days schooling is about being competitive, being on the ball with all the new practices that are coming out in the world. You have to understand your material, you have to understand what the next step is before it's even happened. So to do all of that, you have to be very, very current. So to do that, you have to work hard. So sometimes work does come home. It's not always also in the form of paperwork that you carry home, but you do carry stress home as well. If you're a good teacher, you're probably stressing about some student or the other at any given point of time. You're kind of thinking about, oh, this didn't go right in class today. What do I do to make it better tomorrow? That child didn't respond the way I wanted him or her to. So what do I do to make it better? So if you are a passionate educator, you will have these kinds of mental questions and answers always in your mind, and it will kind of filter into your life. So you have to be prepared for that. But it's so rewarding, because at the end of the day, you see the results in your children. You have a different day every day of the week. It's a very dynamic sort of profession, so it's very, very rewarding. So that's the kind of advice that I would give, that again, be ready for a balance, and to give it 100% so that you get all that back.
Very true. And also, I feel that people should not take teaching as a second option in their life. It cannot be.
Definitely. It cannot be, because actually anything that you treat as a second option will probably not result in success, what I feel. If you're passionate about something and you are very convinced you want to do something, probably you'll work very hard to achieve all your goals. If you're half-hearted, or you think that, it's a profession that will just get me through, it probably won't work out, because anyway, your heart and your mind is not in it. So you need your heart and your mind to be in a profession like this, where you're dealing with so many young lives, and you have to be so on the ball every day. So I think so, definitely not a second option.
Correct. And every day you're touching the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I, in fact, just yesterday interacted with a student of mine who I taught 7 years ago. She just messaged me out of the blue with some poetry. She said, I still remember 6 or 7 years ago when I was in grade 4, I promised to send you poetry and I didn't. So here it is. So I don't remember this promise, but she did. So that meant a lot to me, that she was hanging on to this promise for 7 years, and finally she got my number and she reached out and sent it to me. So that is the impact to me,
And the reward.
of teaching. Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. And if I may ask you, you have a passion for teaching, and it is so very evident when you talk about it. You talk about it so passionately. And at the same time, Sanam, I know that kickboxing is something that you are in love with.
Oh,
So
yes.
how did this happen? And is it also having any impact on your life and influencing you in ways that you would want us to know?
Wow, where to start? Where to start, actually? They are such polar opposites, actually. When people look at me or they know what I do, they would never assume that I'm into kickboxing or karate or anything like that. So it's usually a bit of a shock. And the funny story is that I actually enrolled my son into karate during COVID, right at the end of COVID. And when I would take him to class, I would see the adult kickboxing class happen. And I thought, let me just, give it a shot. I'm sitting here doing nothing. Let me give it a shot. And I did that. And in all honesty, I could not manage it. I did 2 classes and I made an excuse and I quit. And I said, oh, I have a lot of work and I can't manage it. And I have asthma and I don't think I can. And I quit for 3 months. And I sat on the sidelines watching my son and watching this class going on, knowing what I had done. And in all honesty, it ate me up inside. And 3 months later, I said, oh my God, what am I doing? I just quit, and I shouldn't do that. Why don't I just do the best I can and let me make the best of my time? And I did that. And I decided, let me just measure myself day to day. If I could do one push up today, I would do two tomorrow. And even if I couldn't do two, if I could just do that one, that would be more than enough. And that's how it began. And here I am, many years later, heavily into kickboxing and karate, doing well. I compete at state and national level, which is a huge shock to me as well, because I never thought at this age, starting a new sport and being able to compete, from Haryana state would be ever a possibility. But here we are. So it's, I feel, also a huge learning for my boys, because they watched me on the journey or struggling. I have come back tired, I have come back with bruises, I have come back hurting and frustrated. And it was my sons who told me, come on, mom, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So now everybody else has quit karate, and here I'm the last woman standing there. So yeah, it's resilience and a lot of hard work, but here I am and I love it.
And so must have developed certain skills out of this in your life, helping you through.
Definitely. So that's what I always say, that, something that you learn in one area of your life usually always translates to another. So I have a lot of discipline when it comes to my classes. In fact, sometimes my family, gets very frustrated because I say I can't miss my class, I can't miss this or that. But then that is the kind of discipline that I usually have with everything in my life, whether it is my work, whether it is my family. If I have to do something, I have to do it. If I have to work at something, I will work hard at it. I will work 100% to perfect it. So it is those same values, I think, that translate to that as well. So till I get it right, I will not stop. And I just feel like it's very important that my boys also see a woman working hard at a sport sometimes that is mostly dominated by men. I go out and I make space for myself in my dojo. I make a space for myself in my home. And I feel like it's very important for them to see that I am competing, in a stadium full of people, and my family is there to support me. So sometimes my own competitors, at a national competition are shocked that, oh, you're married and you have two children. Who's watching your children? We can't dream of competing once we get married. And I said, oh, there's my husband and there are my children, they are watching me compete. So for me, that's a family, and that's important for my boys to see and understand that women can do anything. They can do this after they're married, after they have kids, they can do whatever they set their minds to. So for me, that's very, very important part of what I'm doing.
Wonderful. And that is what I think we women need to actually know, that it is within us to figure it out, and family
Yes,
will follow suit and they will take care of it. So,
absolutely.
congratulations once again, because yes, national level player you are now, and sportsman, and doing so well.
Thank you.
So, any challenges that you face specific to this, and how did you overcome, so that my viewers can learn out of it?
In all honesty, I face challenges every day. If I think about it, I face challenges every day, from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. I mean, it is as small as who will look after my children if I am out of the house practicing. It is as small as I don't have the car today to reach practice and my state championships are in a month. It is as big as I am unwell and can't make it. It is as, I mean, everything is either a problem or a solution. So if I were to look at every day I do have to coordinate with my, dojo where I work out, and I have to coordinate with my team and say, will I be able to make it? Because I can't guarantee that day that I'll make it. So if that's a problem, if you view it as a problem, it's a problem. I face that on a daily basis, but the point is that I have to find a solution around that. So if I want to do something, I, along with the problem, have to figure out how to make it work. Some days I can do it, some days I can't. I don't beat myself up about the days that I can't do my best, and that's okay. Because I know on the other days, I am giving my best to solve the problem. I will figure it out. I will figure out if my kids can come with me. They have become accommodating. Sometimes I can't get them home. They come with me to the dojo. So they have become accommodating in that way. Sometimes I figure out, I hitch a ride, I catch a cab. There are n number of things which could kind of make me take a step back and say, oh, not in the mood today. They like life. That's just life. And it happens to everybody related to anything. So problems are as big or small as you make them. But especially when you have a family, things just come up, Sometimes things just come up and you can't stop them. So it's up to your attitude. When things take a backward step, you can't feel too bad about it and say, I'm not interested in this anymore. I think I should give up. Though the thought has crossed my mind many times, sometimes I think to myself, is it worth it? I'm putting my family out sometimes. I am skipping vacations sometimes because I have to train and those kinds of things. So I do feel a lot of guilt also, which sometimes makes me, that's the big problem. So those are the small problems. The big problems are the mother guilt that happen. Am I spending enough time with the kids? Am I putting my family out unnecessarily? Is it even worth it at this age to compete? Why is it necessary? A lot of people tell me, don't do it. Why? You already achieved enough. There's no need, So that kind of guilt is something that eats at you. But again, if you want to make it happen, you have to make it happen. And it has to be something you want to do. So I do want to do this. I'm passionate about it. So we figure out a way to make ourselves happy and others happy at the same time. So those kinds of problems are always there, but it's the solutions that are important.
Very, very well said, Sanam, because the points that you brought out, I think these are the things that pull a lot of ladies back into their home and cocoon, wherein they
Hmm.
decide not to step out and do things which they are
Yes.
passionate, maybe looking forward to. But again, that
Hmm.
guilt that you talked about,
Absolutely.
very
And
true.
it's small, it feels like such a small thing to just say guilt. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just something within, but actually that guilt can eat you up alive if you let it, because I think it's a very uh, motherly or a female thing to kind of put everyone in front of yourself also. You have to take care of your family before yourself. You have to look after your kids before you look after yourself. You have to take care of the entire household before you look after yourself. It's a very natural thing to do. It's something that I think is a society's expectation also to some extent. So sometimes it feels like you're breaking the norm by not doing that, and also saying no, what I need is also important. So sometimes you may also get a lot of opinions on whether that's correct or not, so that also adds to that guilt. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about weighing the pros and cons, the balances of your life, and there's no judgment. If you do feel things are out of hand and you can't do it, by all means take the decision that's right for you. So whatever feels right, that's what you should do.
Correct, correct. And the sport that in which you are, Sanam, it's quite a male dominated, as you said earlier also. So, as a woman, what do you think can another women do to, pull each other up and take care of one another?
Yes, I do agree with you. It is quite a male dominated sport. But what I found made a huge difference was finding a very safe space for myself. So I think when I started this whole journey, I had a dojo where I saw female competitors, and they were just a part of the environment. There was nothing special about being a female in the martial arts. There was, in fact, there was a great sense of pride attached there. And I think it is those women and the men who stood behind them who lifted me up and encouraged me to do this. So I think it was very important that I found that space. Perhaps had it been somewhere else where, maybe I didn't get that support, I might have also not developed the interest or the passion. But because I had an environment where everyone was supportive, it just happened so naturally. And I had people just saying, come on, let's do this. Come on, women can do that, and let's do it. So it helped me to feel like, yeah, it's not a big deal, everybody else is doing it, so I should also do it. Why not? It's not anything special. So maybe I think it's important that women also find their space. Yes, male dominated professions or sports will always be there, but you have to find a safe space where you feel like you can grow. Around individuals you can grow. I also feel like it takes a village to help you grow, both at home, also, at your passion place, wherever that is. It takes a village. So I could not have done all of this by myself without the encouragement of my senseis, who are, again, so very supportive. So I think that's hugely a factor for women who flourish at the end of the day.
Correct. So basically, we are talking about the support of the family and society put together.
Hmm.
And for
Yes.
the woman to be willing to take that first step forward before anything else happens in life. Very
Yes.
true, very correct. There it is. And besides that, Sanam, now that at such a young age, you've kind of achieved so many things, so many accolades and awards, and you are there, you know. Now, what else are you looking for yourself? What's your next goal or
That's very kind of you to say all of that, and it sounds very fancy when you say that. But for me, I am still, I don't know, I'm still on my path, like you're saying, I am there and all that, and it sounds really good. But for me, I still haven't written all the blogs I have to write. I still haven't competed in all the things I have to compete. So, there is no end point, that I see. Because again, if I look at who I am today versus who I was 6 years ago when I started this journey, me and she are also quite different, um, I'm a different version of myself. And although I'm on the same path, but there's still so much more to do. I still want to reach out to more people. I still want to write more. I want to explore more. I want to, see what happens in the next few years. Every year my role as a teacher kind of changes and shifts a bit. The dynamics of my profession keep shifting. So it keeps the passion alive for me a lot. So for me, there is no goal. There cannot be, especially not in a profession like teaching. Most professions have a post that you can aspire to. You might want to be the president or the VP of a company, and that will probably be like, I have made it. But in teaching, there is no such thing because it's just about the journey. So there is so much left to learn, and that's what they say. The best teachers are the best learners, actually. So I'd like to think I'm a good learner and there's so much more to learn. So I'm looking forward to that journey.
that's modesty, I must say. And you've brilliantly put it also. And I'm very, very positive that a lot of my viewers would be inspired by your story and the way you bring positivity in their lives right now. So, I would also like to know that what is your message for them and what would be your final say to everyone?
The biggest takeaway I feel from my own journey is that you must find your own path to happiness. Happiness, I have always believed in this line that happiness is a choice. It's very easy to be, to have regrets or to feel left out or to feel like life has passed you by or that you're not good enough for something. That's the very easy choice. But actually, happiness is the choice. Happiness is whatever it means to you. And if it means that you have to step out of your comfort zone, it takes more effort actually than to give up. So you have to recognize that effort and put that effort in yourself so that you can get to that state of happiness. I really believe that because it's so easy to give up. It's the easier path, actually. You just have to do nothing to give up. But happiness is a choice. It takes hard work, but it will definitely reward you in the end. So figure out your happiness and go for it. Put that effort and investment in yourself because it's worth it.
Very nice, Sanam. And can't forget your hashtag Sari Not Sorry. Uh, how is that going and what motivated you for that? And also, because this month I am talking with women who are, we will not call that women with substance or something like that because everyone has it in them. But yes, women who can inspire and motivate others. So, empowerment for you and hashtag Sari Not Sorry. And with that, we will wind it up.
Okay, so Sari Not Sorry started out again because I never knew how to tie a sari and I always found it incredibly beautiful. However, I always had to, get someone to tie a sari for me, and it was this big deal. My mom-in-law had to tie a sari for me all the time if I had to go for a wedding, and I always thought saris were gorgeous, and I took my mom's saris and never knew how to wear them. And then one fine day again, I just said, I am done not knowing how to do something that I really want to do. So I am going to learn. And I learned how to tie a sari, and I made a promise to myself that if I learn, I will wear a sari at least once a fortnight. And that's a deal I made with myself. And I said, this is something that's very unique to us. It is a wonderful part of our culture, and it's something that I find absolutely gorgeous and something that needs to be celebrated. So at least once a fortnight, if not once a week, I wear a sari to school, and I go through my entire day in a sari. And my whole purpose behind the hashtag sari not sorry is that, look at me, I'm going through my day in my sari, I'm comfortable. It's just about how you make it, it's about attitude. You drape it with style and elegance that's uniquely you. It doesn't have to be perfect. So most of my sari draping, if you see, is not traditional. It's just what the sari wants to do that day, actually. So therefore it is sari not sorry. That's how it started, because initially I used to keep saying, oh sorry, I haven't pleated it properly, oh sorry, I haven't draped it properly, oh sorry, I don't know how to put the pallu properly. So it became sorry not sorry, because I kept saying sorry. Then I realized, no, I need to just enjoy the whole process, and what the sari wants to do, let it do it. So I enjoy doing that till today. So once a week or once a fortnight, I wear a sari, and I do share that on Insta and on my handles, so that others again can be inspired to pull out those saris from their cupboards and wear a sari and be brave and just go to work or go for a party in a sari, which is something uncommon these days. So again, just a small effort to celebrate something that you enjoy. And like you said, empowerment comes, in all different shapes and sizes, whatever it takes for you to feel empowered. If it's a sari, go wear it. If it's a passion, go do it. Whatever it takes, you must feel empowered, feel the best you can. So that's what I believe.
Correct. And that again, you have motivated me. And that hashtag of yours only motivated me enough to wear a sari today for this conversation as
Brilliant.
well.
I'm regretting not wearing one now.
No, no, no. So, yes, you have been a huge influence, I'm sure, in many people's lives. And with
Thank you.
this conversation that we've had, people will be influenced and motivated, because there are a lot of things that you have just talked, and they are the highlights of this entire talk. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much.
Sanam. It was wonderful chatting with you, talking with you, and stay
Thank you
blessed,
very much. It was my
stay
pleasure. It was
happy.
my pleasure, really.
So, dear friends, that was Sanam Edwards, who is a passionate person when it comes to education, kickboxing, and motherhood. She is doing it all. I must also let you know that she has her expertise featured in interviews, podcasts, and global education summits, including a podcast episode Reimagining Maslow's Pyramid for the 21st Century with the Annan Foundation. I am sure most of you would have been motivated enough, inspired enough to keep your HQ in order. That is your happiness quotient, because that is what she talks about when it comes to empowerment and self discovery. Jai Hind.